I could not believe what had just happened. My hands shook as I stared at the empty envelope. All the money I had saved for months, money I thought I was giving to people who wanted to help me, was gone. My knees felt weak. I sat down on the edge of my bed, my chest rising and falling like I had just run a race. The strangers had smiled at me, spoken so kindly, promised me help, promised me safety. And yet, they had taken everything. I whispered to myself, how could I have trusted them? How could I have been so blind? My heart was pounding so loudly that I could almost hear it echo in the room. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to run outside and chase after them. But it was too late. They were gone. They had vanished into the air, leaving me with nothing but broken promises and an empty pocket. At that moment I realized the truth. Broken heart, I got scammed by strangers I thought I could trust. Broken heart. But what hurt even more than the money was the shame. I felt like a fool, an old woman who should have known better. I looked around my quiet house, wondering how I would explain this to my family, wondering how I would survive the month without that money. Tears filled my eyes, and I pressed my hands against my face. Then suddenly, there was a knock at the door. My body froze. My mind spun with fear. Was it them? Were they back? Or was it someone else with another trick? I did not know what was waiting for me on the other side of that door. Cliffhanger intro ends. Story proper begins here. My name is Margaret, but most people call me Grandma Maggie. I am 72 years old, and I live in a small town in Ohio, here in the United States. Before I begin my story, I want to ask you, please subscribe, like, and click the notification bell so you don't miss more of my upcoming stories. I share real-life lessons, the kind that can protect you from heartbreak. Now tell me, from which part of the country are you watching from? Go ahead and drop it in the comments. I would love to know where my story is reaching. Now let me take you back to where it all started, before that terrible knock on my door, before the strangers walked into my life and stole my trust. It began on an ordinary Tuesday morning. The sun was shining gently through the curtains, and I had just finished making myself a cup of tea. I remember humming one of my favorite old hymns as I sat by the window, watching the children across the street wait for their school bus. My life was quiet. Too quiet, perhaps. Ever since my husband passed away 5 years ago, the house had felt big and empty. I filled the silence with chores, small projects, and sometimes chatting with neighbors at the local store. That morning I went through my mail and saw a colorful letter. It was from what looked like a charity group. They claimed they were helping elderly people fix their roofs, repair broken heaters, and provide emergency funds for those in need. At first I thought nothing of it, but the words "trusted volunteers from the community" caught my attention. Something about it seemed safe. Later that week, 2 men came to my porch. They introduced themselves as David and Mark. They wore matching jackets, carried clipboards, and spoke with such warmth that I felt my heart open to them. They said they were part of the same program I had read about. They told me they were here to help me repair the old shingles on my roof before winter came. I remember smiling, thinking how lucky I was. But let me pause here, dear viewers, and remind you of something. Not everyone who smiles at you is your friend. Sometimes evil hides behind kindness. That was the lesson I was about to learn the hard way. The men walked through my house, inspecting things as if they truly cared. They asked me questions about my health, about my children, about how I managed day by day. Their voices were soft, gentle, like honey dripping into my ears. I felt safe. I felt seen. And after years of loneliness, it felt good to have someone pay attention. They told me they could fix my roof for a special low price, if I paid in advance. At first, I hesitated. But David put his hand on mine and said, "Ma'am, we just want to help. We do this for people like you all the time. You can trust us." Those words, "you can trust us," stuck in my heart. And so, against my better judgment, I went to my little safe box, pulled out the envelope of cash I had been saving, and handed it over. They smiled, thanked me, and promised they'd be back first thing in the morning to start the repairs. But morning came, and no one showed up. At first, I thought maybe something had delayed them. Then another day passed, then 2, then 3. My heart began to sink. My phone calls went unanswered. Their numbers stopped working. It was as if they had never existed. And that's when I knew. I had been scammed. My world crumbled that day. The money was gone. My trust was gone. And my faith in strangers was shattered. But little did I know, this was just the beginning. Because on the fourth day, just when I was drowning in despair, came that knock at my door. And when I opened it, I saw something that made my heart stop in my chest. I stood frozen in front of that door. My heart thudded so loudly I could almost hear it in my ears. The knock came again, firmer this time. My hands trembled as I reached for the handle. 1,000 thoughts raced through my mind. What if it was them? What if they had come back to laugh at me? Or worse, to take more? I swallowed hard and slowly opened the door. Standing there was a young woman, maybe in her late 20s, holding a small package. She wore a bright yellow jacket and had a kind face. "Good morning, ma'am," she said gently. "I'm from the local community group. We're dropping off care packages for seniors in the neighborhood." For a moment, relief washed over me. She wasn't one of them. She wasn't here to trick me, or so I thought. I accepted the package, which contained a loaf of bread, a carton of milk, and some canned food. She smiled warmly, and I felt my shoulders loosen. "Are you okay?" she asked, tilting her head, noticing my shaky hands. I hesitated. Should I tell her? Should I admit that I had been scammed, that I had handed over all my savings to strangers who disappeared? Shame pressed heavy on my chest. But before I could answer, she added, "If you need any help or resources, our group is here. We try to look out for our seniors." Those words cracked something inside me. I wanted to believe her, but a voice in my head screamed, "Be careful, Maggie. Don't trust too easily again." Still, I nodded politely, thanked her, and closed the door. Inside, I sat at my kitchen table staring at the package. My emotions were a storm, grateful for the kindness, but bitterly aware of how easily I had been fooled before. I whispered to myself, "Not everyone is bad. Not everyone is a liar." But the doubt lingered. That night I lay awake in bed, my mind replaying every moment with David and Mark. Their smiles, their soft voices, the way they looked me in the eye. I kept asking myself, how could I not see through it? The next morning I decided to take action. I couldn't just sit and cry. I went down to the local police station. With my old purse in hand, I walked through those heavy glass doors, my legs trembling. The officer at the desk looked up kindly. "How can we help you, ma'am?" he asked. I told them everything, from the letter to the visit, to handing over the cash to the unanswered calls. The officer's face grew serious. He explained that I wasn't the only victim. Several seniors in town had been targeted by the same scam. My heart sank deeper. I wasn't alone, but that didn't comfort me. It only made me angrier. They asked me for every detail I could remember. What they looked like, what they wore, the names they gave me. I tried hard to recall, but shame clouded my memory. I remembered their smiles more than their features. Isn't that strange? It was as if my trust blinded me even to their faces. The officer promised to investigate, but I saw in his eyes that he couldn't guarantee anything. These men were professionals. They knew how to vanish. I walked home that afternoon under the gray sky, the cold air biting my cheeks. My house felt heavier than ever. I sat in my armchair, pulled a blanket over my legs, and thought of my late husband. "Oh, George," I whispered. "You would have seen through them. You were always the sharp one." Tears burned my eyes, and I buried my face in the blanket. Days turned into a week. Life moved on for everyone else, but I was stuck in the same place, angry, sad, and fearful. My neighbors waved, but I avoided long conversations. I didn't want anyone to know I had been fooled. I didn't want to be the laughingstock of the street. One evening, while sipping my tea, I heard another knock at the door. My heart instantly jumped into my throat. I froze again. Not again. Please, not again. This time the knock was softer, almost hesitant. Slowly, I approached and peeked through the small glass panel. It was the same young woman in the yellow jacket, the one who had brought the care package. I hesitated, then opened the door. She smiled shyly. "Hello again. I just wanted to check in on you. We're doing wellness visits for seniors, and I remembered you looked a little troubled last time." I blinked, stunned by her thoughtfulness. No one usually checked in on me like that. "Come in," I finally said, stepping aside. She entered and sat across from me at the kitchen table. My name's Sarah, she said, offering her hand. I'm with a volunteer group from the church nearby. We want to make sure no one in our community feels alone. Her kindness disarmed me. Before I knew it, I found myself telling her everything. How I was scammed, how I lost my savings, how foolish I felt. She listened without judgment, her eyes soft with compassion. When I finished, she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You are not foolish, Margaret. You are human. And humans want to trust. That is not a weakness, it's a beautiful thing. It's the people who abuse that trust who should be ashamed, not you. Her words wrapped around me like a warm blanket. For the first time in weeks, I felt lighter. We talked for nearly an hour. Before leaving, she promised to stop by again soon. I smiled as I closed the door behind her, a small seed of hope sprouting in my heart. But that night, as I drifted to sleep, I thought about something she had said. We want to make sure no one in our community feels alone. Was that true? Or was this another trap? The fear never fully went away. The next morning, while I was watering my little garden in the backyard, I noticed a black car parked across the street. 2 men sat inside. They were staring in my direction. My watering can slipped from my hands, splashing water all over my shoes. My breath caught in my throat. My body stiffened as the men kept their eyes fixed on me. And then, just as my heart was about to burst, one of them opened the car door and stepped out. The man stepped out of the car, and my whole body stiffened. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark jacket and sunglasses even though the morning sun was weak. His steps were slow, deliberate, almost heavy. I could hear the crunch of gravel under his shoes as he walked toward my fence. My heart pounded so loud I thought he might hear it. I froze, clutching the wooden handle of the garden rake, as if it could protect me. My knees trembled. "Good morning, ma'am," he said in a deep voice, pulling the glasses down just enough for me to see his eyes. His face was unfamiliar, but something about him made me shiver. I forced a smile, though my lips quivered. "Good morning," I answered cautiously. He stopped just short of my fence, leaning slightly on it. "We're looking for a woman named Margaret. Would that be you?" My throat went dry. "Yes," I whispered. A smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth. "We need to talk." The second man was still in the car, watching. I could see his silhouette leaning forward, his eyes hidden but fixed on me. My stomach twisted. "What do you want?" I asked, gripping the rake tighter. The man chuckled lightly, raising both hands as if to calm me. "Relax, Mom. We're not here to hurt you. We just heard you had some trouble recently. Some people took advantage of you, right?" My eyes widened. How did he know? Who told him? My breath quickened. "I don't know what you're talking about," I lied, trying to sound firm. But he shook his head. "Oh, we know. We know exactly what happened. And believe me, we don't like those guys either." A chill ran down my spine. Was he talking about David and Mark, the scammers? How could these men possibly know about them? Unless they were connected. "What do you want from me?" I asked again, louder this time, my voice breaking. The man leaned closer, lowering his voice. "We can help you, Margaret. We can get your money back. But you have to trust us." Those words, "You have to trust us," hit me like a hammer. My chest tightened, and the rake slipped from my trembling hands, landing softly in the grass. I stared at him, my mind spinning. Was this another trap? Another cruel game? Or was this somehow my chance to fix everything? He slipped a card through the fence. "Think about it. Call us if you want justice." Before I could respond, he turned and walked back to the car. The door slammed, the engine roared, and within seconds, the car drove off down the street. I stood there frozen, staring at the small white card in my hand. There was no company name, just a first name, Ethan, and a phone number scrawled in bold black ink. My hands shook so badly that I almost dropped it. My gut screamed at me to tear it up and throw it away. But another voice, deep inside, whispered, "What if they're telling the truth? What if they really can get your money back?" That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in my living room with the lamp on, the card lying on the coffee table in front of me. The paper slipped from my trembling fingers and landed softly on the kitchen floor. For a moment, I could only stare at it as if it were a snake ready to strike. My eyes burned, my chest heaved, and my mind screamed. Written in bold, black letters were the words, "Bring $5,000 in cash. We'll bring David and Mark to you." I gasped so loudly that my own echo startled me. My knees gave way, and I sank into the chair behind me. My hands clutched my face as hot tears spilled down. $5,000? That was more than I had lost in the first scam. Where did they expect me to get such money? I was living off my pension, barely enough to cover bills and groceries. My mind whirled. So this is what they meant by help. They weren't offering to save me. They were pulling me into yet another trap. I pushed the paper away, as though distance could protect me from its poison. But the words burned in my mind. Bring $5,000. I whispered through clenched teeth. I can't. I won't. Not again. I rose to my feet, pacing the kitchen floor. My old wooden clock ticked loudly, each second slicing through the silence like a blade. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ethan smile at the diner, smooth and confident, like a spider who had spun a web just for me. By morning, I had made up my mind. I folded the paper, stuffed it back into the envelope, and shoved it deep into the bottom drawer of my dresser. I told myself I would never look at it again. But as the days passed, the whispers in my head grew louder. What if they really know where David and Mark are? What if this is my only chance to get justice? I argued with myself. One moment I was ready to tear the paper to shreds, the next I was staring at it, wondering how I could possibly raise the money. Meanwhile, Sarah, the young woman from the church, came by again. She brought a basket of fruit this time, her smile warm as ever. "How are you holding up, Margaret?" she asked gently. I hesitated, then forced a smile.
"I'm managing."
But I couldn't tell her the truth. I couldn't let her see how torn I was, how close I had come to being fooled a second time. Shame clung to me like a shadow. She looked at me closely, as if sensing my storm inside. "Remember," she said softly, "you don't have to carry everything alone." I nodded, but inside I felt lonelier than ever. That night, as I sat by the window, I noticed something chilling. The same black car was back, parked across the street, watching. My heart jumped into my throat. I closed the curtains quickly and pressed my back against the wall, my breathing fast and shallow. They were still there. They hadn't given up on me. I barely slept, every sound outside making me flinch. The next day, I decided I couldn't keep this to myself anymore. I went back to the police station, clutching the envelope like it was a snake I had captured. The officer listened carefully as I explained everything. He read the note, his expression hardening. "This is worse than we thought," he said firmly. "They're not just scammers. They're extortionists. They're trying to bleed you dry." He leaned forward, his eyes locking on mine. "Margaret, whatever you do, don't give them any more money. Promise me." I nodded weakly. "I promise." But promises are strange things. Sometimes they crumble under fear. That evening my phone rang. The number was unknown. I hesitated, then answered. "Margaret," the voice said smoothly. It was Ethan. "I trust you've read the note." My throat tightened. "I don't have that kind of money." "That's a shame," he replied, his tone calm but sharp. "Because if you don't bring it, we can't help you. And worse, things might get difficult for you." My blood ran cold. "Are you threatening me?" "Not at all," he said, almost laughing. "Just reminding you how unsafe it can be for an elderly woman living all alone." My knees buckled, and I sank into my chair, gripping the phone with both hands. He continued, "You have 3 days. Think about it." The line went dead. I sat there, frozen, the phone slipping from my hand onto the floor. Tears welled in my eyes. Fear twisted in my stomach like a knife. For the first time, I felt truly unsafe in my own home. I locked every door, every window. I left lights on through the night. Still, the shadows crept in. On the second night, I heard footsteps outside my window. My heart stopped. Slowly, I peeked through the curtains. And there, under the dim glow of the streetlight, I saw a figure standing in my yard, watching. I stumbled back, my hand over my mouth to stifle a scream. My whole body trembled. Then, the figure moved closer to my porch. I reached for the phone with shaky hands, ready to dial 911. But just as I lifted it, I heard the sound of my doorknob turning. Someone was trying to come in. The sound of the doorknob rattling sent a shockwave through my body. My heart hammered so fast I thought it would burst. I pressed myself against the wall, clutching the phone in my trembling hands. The knob turned again, slow, deliberate, like someone testing if it would give way. My throat tightened. I could hardly breathe. "Who's there?" I croaked, my voice shaking. Silence. The only sound was the faint squeak of the knob being twisted again. Panic surged. I quickly dialed 911 with shaking fingers. "911, what's your emergency?" A calm operator's voice answered. "Someone's trying to break into my house." I whispered harshly, tears filling my eyes. "Please, please, I'm alone." "Stay calm, ma'am. What's your address?" I gave it, my voice breaking. "Officers are on their way. Stay on the line with me," the operator said firmly. But even as she spoke, I heard the sound of footsteps retreating from the porch. The knob stopped rattling. The air outside grew still again. I tiptoed to the window, my body shaking uncontrollably. I pulled the curtain just enough to peek. The yard was empty. Whoever it was had vanished into the night. Minutes later, red and blue lights flashed outside. 2 officers stepped out of their car. Their presence a relief so heavy that I nearly collapsed. They searched the yard, the porch, even the alley behind my house. But whoever had been there was gone, like smoke in the wind. "Ma'am, do you know anyone who would want to harm you?" one officer asked. I hesitated, then told them everything, about Ethan, the note, the threats, the phone call, and now this. Their jaws tightened as they listened. "This is serious," one of them said. "They're trying to scare you into paying. Don't give in. We'll increase patrols in your area." I nodded weakly, though deep inside I was still shaking. When they left, I locked the door again and sank onto the couch, pulling the blanket around me like armor. That night, sleep never came. Every creak of the house, every rustle outside made my heart race. The next morning, Sarah showed up again with her gentle smile. But the moment she saw my pale face and trembling hands, her smile faded. "What happened?" she asked, concerned. I broke down, sobbing, telling her everything. About the break-in attempt, the police, the threats. She gasped, her hand covering her mouth. "Oh, Margaret," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "You shouldn't have to go through this." Her kindness touched me so deeply I cried harder. For a moment, I wasn't alone in the storm. She leaned closer. "Don't give them the money. Promise me. People like that never stop. If you give once, they'll keep coming back." I nodded, though doubt still gnawed at me. That afternoon, the phone rang again. My stomach dropped when I saw unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. "Margaret," Ethan's voice drawled. "I hear you had visitors last night. Scary, wasn't it? That won't be the last. Unless you cooperate." Anger flared in me. "You're monsters." I snapped, surprising even myself. "I'm not giving you a single penny." He chuckled darkly. "We'll see about that. You have until tomorrow. After that, I can't promise you'll be safe." The line went dead. I stood frozen, the phone pressed to my ear, my hands trembling violently. That night, I sat by the window with the lights off, watching, waiting. Hours passed and nothing happened. But just as I began to drift off in my chair, a sound jolted me awake, tires screeching outside. I rushed to the window and pulled back the curtain. The same black car was parked across the street again, its headlights cutting through the darkness. But this time it wasn't just 2 men inside. There were 3, and one of them was holding something that glinted under the streetlight. A weapon. My blood ran cold. My hands flew to my mouth. My knees nearly buckled beneath me. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding so loud I could hear it echo in my ears. They weren't just trying to scare me anymore. This was something far, far worse. The sight of that weapon glinting under the streetlight froze me to the bone. My breath caught in my throat, and I staggered back from the window, clutching my chest. My whole body shook so violently I thought I might collapse. "What do they want from me?" I whispered to the empty house. The black car sat idling, its headlights slicing through the darkness, making my yard glow like a stage. I ducked behind the curtains, my hands pressed to my mouth, my eyes burning with tears. My mind screamed, "Call the police. Call the police right now." But then the car door opened. One man stepped out, the one holding the weapon. My heart thudded. He wasn't rushing, he wasn't hiding. He walked slowly, confidently, as though he knew I was watching, as though fear was part of their game. I crawled toward the phone on shaky knees and dialed 911 again. My voice shook as I whispered to the operator. "They're back, outside my house. One of them has a weapon." "Stay calm, ma'am," the operator said quickly. "Keep away from the windows. Officers are on their way." But as I clutched the phone, I heard a sound that made my blood run cold, my back gate creaking open. They were in my yard. I dropped the phone and scrambled into the hallway, tears streaming down my cheeks. My old house suddenly felt like a trap, every wall closing in. I wished George was still here. He would have protected me. The footsteps grew closer, soft, deliberate crunches in the grass. I stumbled into my bedroom, slammed the door shut, and pushed the dresser in front of it with every ounce of strength I had left. My heart was beating so loudly it drowned out every other sound. "Stay out!" I screamed, though my voice cracked. For a moment, silence. Then knock, 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 3 slow taps on the bedroom door. I clutched my chest, gasping. They knew exactly where I was. But before anything else could happen, I heard sirens in the distance. Red and blue lights flashed outside my window, and within seconds voices shouted in the yard. "Police! Put your hands where we can see them." I collapsed to my knees, sobbing in relief. The sound of shouting, running, and car doors slamming filled the night. My body shook as adrenaline coursed through me. Minutes later, an officer gently knocked on my bedroom door. "It's safe now, ma'am. They're gone. We scared them off." I pushed the dresser aside with trembling hands and opened the door. The officer's kind eyes met mine, but his words were heavy. "We couldn't catch them. They fled before we arrived. But they'll be back. You need to be careful." I nodded weakly, unable to stop crying. That night, the police stayed parked outside until dawn. I barely slept, every shadow dancing on my walls like ghosts. The next morning Sarah arrived again. The moment she saw the police car outside and my pale, exhausted face, her expression darkened. "Oh, Margaret," she whispered, pulling me into a hug. "This is getting worse." Her presence comforted me, but a nagging thought gnawed at the back of my mind. How had she always shown up at the right times? Who told her? I brushed it away, not wanting to doubt the only kind soul who had stood by me. But the fear lingered. Later that day, the phone rang again. My heart leapt when I saw the caller ID. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something inside pushed me to. "Margaret," Ethan's voice purred, calm as ever. "You called the police. That was a mistake." Rage surged in me. "You're sick. You're evil. Leave me alone." He chuckled darkly. "I warned you. But maybe words aren't enough. Maybe you need to learn the hard way." "What do you mean?" I whispered, my stomach twisting. "Check your mailbox," he said simply. Then the line went dead. My blood froze. Slowly, trembling, I opened my front door, my eyes darting around the yard, half expecting them to leap out at me. I shuffled to the mailbox, my heart pounding in my throat. I opened it, and inside was a small envelope. Hands shaking, I pulled it out and tore it open right there on the porch. Inside was a single photograph. My heart nearly stopped. It was a picture of my granddaughter Lily, walking home from school. On the back, in bold letters, were the words, "Next." The photograph slipped from my trembling hands and fluttered onto the porch floor. My legs nearly gave way beneath me. I leaned against the railing, gasping for air. Not my Lily. Not my sweet granddaughter. She was only 12, with the brightest smile and the kindest heart. She loved baking cookies with me and always begged to hear my stories before bed. She was my joy, my light, the only reminder of the good still left in my life. And now they had found her. Tears blurred my vision as I picked up the photograph again. Staring at her innocent face, my stomach churned. They weren't just threatening me anymore. They were threatening the people I loved most. I stumbled inside, locked the door, and dialed the police once more. When the officer arrived, I shoved the envelope into his hands, my words tumbling out in a broken sob. "They followed my granddaughter. They're going after her. You have to stop them." The officer's jaw tightened as he studied the photo. This isn't just harassment anymore. This is a direct threat. We'll assign extra patrols around your house and your granddaughter's school. His words gave me a sliver of comfort, but not enough. How could I possibly relax, knowing those men were watching Lily? That night, I called my son Lily's father. "Mom," he answered, tired but warm. "Listen to me," I said, my voice shaking. "Something terrible is happening. You need to keep Lily close. Don't let her out of your sight. Promise me." He hesitated. "Mom, what's going on?" I couldn't bring myself to explain everything. The shame, the fear. It choked me. "Just promise me, James. Please." After a long silence, he sighed. "All right, Mom. I promise." I hung up, tears streaming down my cheeks. I hated keeping secrets, but how could I tell him the truth? He'd think I was losing my mind, or worse, he'd blame me for putting Lily in danger. The next day, Sarah showed up again with a basket of muffins. "You poor thing," she said softly, hugging me. "You look like you haven't slept in days." I wanted to tell her everything. About the photo, about Lily, about my constant terror. But something in me held back. Instead, I forced a smile and said, "I'll be all right." But Sarah tilted her head, studying me carefully. "You're not telling me everything, are you?" Her question lingered in my mind long after she left. Was I wrong not to trust her completely? That night, exhaustion finally pulled me into sleep. But it was restless, haunted sleep filled with shadows and voices. I woke to the sound of tapping on my window. My heart lurched. I froze in bed, straining to hear. Top, top, top. I sat up slowly, my breath shallow. The curtains fluttered with the breeze from the old frame. Then something slid through the crack in the window. A folded piece of paper landed on the floor with a soft rustle. I scrambled out of bed, picked it up with shaking hands, and unfolded it. Inside was a single sentence scrawled in messy handwriting. "Tomorrow we take what you love most." My scream echoed through the empty house. The paper shook in my hands as though it were alive. My whole body went cold. The words blurred through my tears, but they burned themselves into my mind all the same. "Tomorrow, we take what you love most." I sank onto the floor, clutching the note to my chest, rocking back and forth. My Lily. My sweet Lily. I could not, would not, let them touch her. The rest of the night stretched on like an eternity. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't even close my eyes. Every sound outside made me flinch. My hands shook so badly, I spilled the glass of water I tried to drink. At dawn, I dialed James. "Mom. It's early. Are you okay?" His voice was thick with sleep. I swallowed hard. "James, listen to me. Don't let Lily go to school today. Don't let her out of your sight. Promise me. Please just keep her at home." He paused, his tone shifting. "What's happening? You sound terrified." My throat tightened. I wanted to tell him the whole truth, but the shame was too heavy. How do I explain that I trusted strangers and now they're threatening us? "I'll explain later," I whispered. Just promise me." After a long silence, James finally said, "All right, Mom. I'll keep her home." Relief washed through me, but it was thin and fragile. Because deep inside, I knew these men didn't make empty threats. Later that morning, Sarah dropped by again. She placed her hand gently on my shoulder and said, "You look worse than yesterday, Margaret. You're scaring me. Tell me what's happening." Her concern broke something inside me. I couldn't hold it in anymore. "They threatened my granddaughter," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "They sent me a picture of her walking home from school. And last night they left me a note. They said they're going to take her." Sarah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Oh dear Lord." I sobbed harder. "I don't know what to do. I called the police, but they can't be everywhere. And I don't have the strength to fight these people." Sarah hugged me tight. "We'll get through this, Margaret. I won't let anything happen to your family." Her words comforted me, but a shadow of doubt lingered. How could she be so calm in the face of such danger? That afternoon, the police stopped by again. They assured me they had patrol cars near James's house and Lily's school. But the officer's warning echoed in my mind. "These men are dangerous. Stay vigilant." Evening fell, and the house grew quiet. Too quiet. I tried to distract myself with old photo albums, flipping through pictures of George, James, and little Lily as a baby. The memories brought both comfort and pain. Just as I began to close the album, the phone rang. I froze. The caller ID read unknown number. With trembling hands, I picked it up. Margaret, Ethan's voice cooed, smooth and taunting. Did you think hiding her at home would keep her safe? My breath caught. Leave her alone. She's just a child. He chuckled darkly. Children are precious, aren't they? That's why they make such powerful bargaining chips. My knees buckled, and I clutched the wall for support. Please. I'll do anything. Just don't hurt her. Anything, he repeated, his tone sharp with amusement. Yes, I cried. Take my money, take my house, take me. But don't you dare touch Lily. There was a pause, then he said, prove it. Meet us tomorrow. Alone. If you bring the police, if you tell anyone, we'll know. And then, we won't just take her picture next time. The line went dead. I stood frozen. The phone slipping from my hand and clattering to the floor. Tears spilled down my face. My mind screamed. What do I do? What do I do? But before I could even collect my thoughts, headlights flashed through my living room window. A car had pulled into my driveway. I rushed to the window, my heart hammering. The same black car. The engine cut off. The door creaked open. And then, out of the shadows, a tall figure stepped onto my porch. Not Ethan. Not one of the men. It was Sarah. But in her hand, she was holding the same envelope I had seen in my mailbox before. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My chest rose and fell in sharp, shallow gasps as I watched Sarah step onto my porch. The porch light illuminated her face, calm and composed, too calm. And in her hand was the envelope. My Sarah. The woman who had comforted me, brought me muffins, held me when I cried. Could it be? No. I whispered to myself, backing away from the window. Not her. Not Sarah. But the evidence was right in front of me. She knocked gently, 3 soft taps, so different from the violent banging of those men. My body trembled as I stood frozen in the hallway, unsure whether to answer. Margaret. Her voice floated through the door, sweet and kind, the same voice that had soothed me for weeks. It's me. Please open up. I just want to talk. My heart warred with my mind. She's been so kind. But what if she's part of this? What if she's been working with them all along? I crept closer, pressing my ear against the door. I know you're scared, Sarah continued softly. But you don't have to be afraid of me. Her words twisted like a knife. That was exactly what Ethan had said. You don't have to be afraid. My knees shook. I whispered through the door. What's in your hand, Sarah? Silence. Then after a pause. Just something I need to show you. Please let me in. I gripped the doorknob, torn in two. My gut screamed don't do it, but a desperate part of me clung to the hope that maybe, just maybe, Sarah wasn't part of it. Maybe she was trying to help. Against my better judgment, I cracked the door open. Her face lit up with that familiar warm smile. There you are, dear. But my eyes went straight to the envelope. Sarah, I whispered, my voice trembling. Why do you have that? She hesitated, her smile faltering. Margaret, I need you to trust me. No, my voice rose. You tell me right now or you leave. For the first time, I saw something shift in her eyes. Not anger, not cruelty, but guilt. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. They made me do it. My heart dropped. What? I gasped. Her hands shook as she held the envelope out to me. I didn't want to, Margaret. I swear I didn't. But they know things about me. They threatened me too. I thought if I delivered their messages, maybe they'd leave me alone. My vision blurred. My chest tightened. Betrayal sliced through me like glass. All this time, I whispered, my voice breaking. You've been helping them? Tears welled in her eyes. Not helping. Surviving. I never wanted you hurt. I tried to warn you in my own way. But they don't forgive disobedience. You don't know what they're capable of. I staggered back, clutching the wall for support. You lied to me. You let me cry on your shoulder while you carried their threats into my home. She reached out, but I flinched away. Margaret, please. If we work together, Maybe we can beat them. But if you turn against me now, they'll destroy us both. My head spun. My heart screamed to slam the door in her face. But my mind whispered, what if she's telling the truth? What if she's my only chance? Before I could respond, headlights flashed across the window again. Another car pulled into the street, this one speeding. Sarah's eyes widened. She grabbed my arm with surprising strength. They're here, she hissed. You have to decide right now. Trust me, or you're on your own. I froze, torn in two, as the sound of heavy footsteps pounded toward my porch. The men were back. And this time they weren't knocking. The pounding on the porch shook the whole house. The air inside grew heavy, suffocating, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. My heart thudded so loud it echoed in my ears. Sarah's grip on my arm tightened. Margaret, listen to me, she whispered harshly. Don't scream. Don't run. If you make them angry, they'll do worse than scare you. I yanked my arm free. How dare you? You brought them here. Her face crumpled. I tried to protect you, I swear. But they don't take no for an answer. Before I could reply, the front door burst open with a crack that split the silence. Wood splintered, the chain lock snapping like it was nothing. Two men stormed inside. Ethan was one of them. His cold smile made my blood run cold. The other was taller, bulkier, his face hidden by a dark hood. Well, well, Ethan drawled, his eyes sweeping over me. Grandma finally lets us inside. Cozy little place you've got here. I stumbled backward, pressing my hand to my chest. Get out of my house, I screamed, though my voice cracked. The taller man laughed, low and menacing. You're in no position to give orders, old lady. Ethan's gaze slid to Sarah. And you've done well, bringing her to the point of desperation. Just like we planned. My breath caught. Planned. Sarah's face turned pale. She shook her head frantically. No, Ethan, please. Don't. Shut up, he snapped, his smile vanishing. I stared at her, betrayal crashing over me in waves. All the muffins, the hugs, the kind words, it had all been part of their scheme. My knees weakened. I clutched the wall to keep from falling. You monsters, I whispered. You tricked me. You tricked me into trusting you. Ethan stepped closer, his voice cold and mocking. Trust is expensive, Margaret. And you're about to pay the price. The taller man set a black duffel bag on my coffee table and unzipped it. My stomach twisted when I saw what was inside. Thick ropes, duct tape, and something metallic glinting at the bottom. Tears streamed down my face. Please, please don't hurt me. I'll give you the money. Just leave my granddaughter out of this. Ethan chuckled, shaking his head. Too late for bargains. You should have paid when you had the chance. My body trembled violently, my knees about to give way. The room spun around me, shadows dancing like demons on the walls. Sarah took a step forward, her voice cracking. Ethan, wait. She's not worth it. She's just an old woman. Let her be. The tall man snarled, grabbing her by the arm and shoving her back. Stay out of it, Sarah. You've played your part. Now shut your mouth. Ethan leaned closer to me, his breath chilling my skin. You have one last chance. Do exactly what we say, and maybe, we'll let you live long enough to say goodbye to your granddaughter. My vision blurred with tears. My hands shook as I whispered, God, please help me. But then, from outside, a sudden crash. Tires screeching. A blinding flood of headlights poured through the front window. Someone had pulled into my driveway fast. The men spun around, cursing under their breath. Ethan grabbed the duffel bag. The taller man yanked Sarah toward the door. And within seconds, chaos filled the room. I pressed myself against the wall, heart pounding. The headlights outside didn't belong to the police. They belonged to James, my son. And he was storming toward the house. The sound of James's car door slamming shut made my heart leap into my throat. I stumbled forward, tears blurring my vision. My son, my only son, was charging into the middle of a nightmare he didn't even understand. James, no. I cried out, my voice cracking. But it was too late. The front door, already broken from when Ethan's men had forced it open, swung wide. James stormed inside, his eyes blazing. Mom, he shouted. Then froze when he saw the two men, Sarah cowering in the corner, and me trembling against the wall. His fists clenched. What the hell is going on here? Ethan smirked, calm as ever. Ah, the dutiful son. Right on time. The taller man pulled something metallic from the duffel bag. My stomach turned to stone. A crowbar. He held it like a weapon, the steel gleaming under the living room light. Back off, James barked, stepping in front of me. His voice was firm, stronger than I'd ever heard it, but I could see the fear in his eyes. Ethan chuckled darkly. Brave. But bravery doesn't keep you alive. I clutched James's arm, my nails digging into his sleeve. Please don't fight them. They'll kill you. James's jaw tightened. Not if I kill them first. The taller man lunged forward, swinging the crowbar. James ducked, the metal slicing through the air where his head had just been. The sound of it hitting the wall made me scream. Ethan's smile vanished, his voice turning sharp. Enough games. Take them both. The tall man advanced again, but James grabbed a lamp from the side table and smashed it into the attacker's arm. The crowbar clattered to the floor. Chaos exploded in the room. Sarah screamed, her voice shrill. Stop it. Stop. I pressed myself against the wall, my body trembling so hard I could barely stand. My son and the stranger fought, fists flying, furniture crashing. Ethan shouted orders, his calm mask cracking into rage. Then, in the middle of the chaos, Sarah did something none of us expected. She grabbed the crowbar from the floor. For a heartbeat, the room froze. My breath caught as I stared at her. Whose side was she on? Her eyes darted between me, James, and Ethan. Her hands trembled violently. And then she swung. The crowbar crashed into Ethan's shoulder. He roared in pain, stumbling back. The tall man turned toward her, furious, but James tackled him before he could strike. Go, Mom! James shouted. Run! But my legs wouldn't move. I couldn't leave him. I couldn't leave Sarah either. Not after what she'd just done. The fight grew wilder, louder. The sound of fists, grunts, and breaking glass filled the house. My chest heaved as I watched helplessly, my heart tearing apart. Then another sound. A small, terrified voice from the doorway. Grandma! I spun around, my blood turning to ice. It was Lily. My granddaughter stood frozen at the threshold, clutching her school bag, her big eyes wide with terror as she stared at the violent scene before her. No. I whispered, my knees buckling. No, no, no. The men's heads turned, and Ethan's cruel smile returned, blood dripping from his lip. Well, he hissed. Look who decided to join the party. Lily! I screamed, my voice shattering in the air. My legs nearly gave out as I stumbled toward her. Get out! Run! But she was frozen, her little body trembling, her backpack slipping off her shoulder. Her wide eyes flicked between me, James, Sarah, and the two men wrecking the living room. Ethan's smirk widened, his teeth stained with blood. Well now, Grandma. You thought you could hide her. But she came to us. Don't you touch her. James roared, shoving the taller man back into the wall. But Ethan was quicker. He lunged toward Lily. My scream tore through the house as I tried to block him, but my old legs betrayed me. He grabbed her wrist, yanking her forward. Grandma! She shrieked, tears streaming down her face. My heart splintered. Every ounce of strength in me surged to life. I launched myself at him, clawing, pounding my fists against his arm. Let her go. Let her go, you devil. He shoved me hard. Pain shot through my back as I crashed against the wall. My vision blurred. But through the haze, I saw Lily kicking and screaming, fighting with all her might. James charged, tackling Ethan to the ground. The two men wrestled violently, Lily scrambling free for a moment, until the taller man snatched her. No. Sarah screamed, swinging the crowbar again. It connected with his leg, and he howled in pain, stumbling. Lily fell to the floor and scrambled toward me, sobbing. I gathered her into my arms, shielding her with my body. It's okay, baby. Grandma's here. I won't let them take you. But Ethan was already back on his feet, his face twisted with fury. Blood trickled down his temple, and his voice turned into a snarl. You've made this harder than it needed to be. He reached into the duffel bag and pulled out a gun. The room went still. James froze mid-fight. Sarah dropped the crowbar, her face white as chalk. I clutched Lily tighter, my breath ragged. Ethan's hand was steady as he pointed the weapon straight at me. You should have listened, Grandma, he hissed. Now I decide who walks out of here alive. My whole body shook. My heart thundered so loud it drowned everything else. I pressed Lily's face into my chest, shielding her eyes. Please, I whispered, tears streaming down my cheeks. She's just a child. Take me instead. Kill me if you want, but leave her. James stepped forward, his hands raised. Don't do this. You'll ruin your life forever if you pull that trigger. Ethan's laugh was low, cruel. You think I care about my life? The only thing that matters is finishing what we started. My body trembled, my mind racing. This is it. This is the moment. God, give me strength. Ethan's finger curled tighter around the trigger. And then, from outside, blinding red and blue lights exploded through the windows. Sirens wailed, tires screeched, and voices boomed. Police! Drop your weapon! The house erupted in chaos. Ethan cursed, spinning toward the window. James lunged. The taller man shoved Sarah to the floor. I clutched Lily, dragging her behind the couch, my heart pounding. And then bang! A gunshot ripped through the air. The gunshot cracked through the house like thunder. My ears rang, my chest seized, and for a split second the world stopped moving. Then came the scream. It wasn't Lily's. It wasn't mine. It was James. James! I cried out, my voice tearing from my throat. I crawled from behind the couch, dragging Lily with me, my body trembling so violently I could hardly stay upright. James staggered backward, clutching his shoulder. Blood seeped through his shirt, spreading like wildfire. His face twisted in pain, but his eyes stayed locked on Ethan. You! James growled, his teeth clenched. You're not getting my family. Before Ethan could aim again, the police stormed through the shattered doorway. Flashlights cut through the chaos, voices shouting commands. Drop the weapon. Drop it now. Ethan's face darkened with rage. He glanced at the gun, then at the door, calculating. The taller man shoved the duffel bag toward him, panic on his face. We gotta move, Ethan. Now. But Ethan didn't back down. He raised the gun again, aiming straight at me and Lily. Time slowed. My body screamed at me to move, but fear had me frozen. I clutched Lily tighter, whispering prayers into her hair. Bang! Another shot rang out, but this time it wasn't Ethan's. Ethan roared in pain, the gun flying from his hand as he dropped to his knees. A police officer had shot him. The taller man cursed and tried to bolt through the back door, but 3 officers tackled him before he made it halfway. The living room erupted into chaos, shouts, handcuffs snapping, furniture being shoved aside. I held Lily close, tears flooding my eyes, my chest heaving with sobs. Sarah crawled across the floor toward us, her face streaked with tears. Margaret! Lily, are you okay? I stared at her, my heart twisted with anger and gratitude all at once. She had betrayed me, but she had also struck Ethan down when it mattered. James groaned, sinking to his knees. I scrambled to his side, Lily clinging to me. James, hold on. Please hold on. He gave me a weak smile through the pain.
I'm okay, Mom.
Just a shoulder wound. Nothing vital. But his pale face said otherwise. The police secured Ethan and the taller man, dragging them out in handcuffs. But even as they pulled him away, Ethan's eyes locked onto mine, cold and unbroken. This isn't over. He hissed, blood dripping from his mouth. We'll finish what we started. A chill ran through me. His words clung to my skin like poison. As the officers hauled him out, Sarah knelt beside me. Margaret, you have to believe me, I never wanted this. They forced me. If I didn't obey, they would have killed me too. Her words tumbled in desperation, but before I could answer, another officer rushed in, his face grave. There's a problem, he said quickly. Ethan had someone else outside. We just found tire tracks leading away from your street. My breath caught. What do you mean someone else? The officer's eyes darkened. It looks like he had a backup. And whoever it was, they might not be finished. I clutched Lily to me, my body trembling all over again. My family wasn't safe. Not yet. And then, as if to prove the officer's words true, my phone buzzed on the coffee table. The screen lit up with a message from an unknown number. It read, "We still have one of yours. You'll never see them again if you don't pay." My heart stopped. My blood turned cold as my eyes froze on the glowing words across the phone screen. We still have one of yours. You'll never see them again if you don't pay. My hands shook so violently I almost dropped the phone. Lily clutched my skirt, her small voice trembling. Grandma, what does it mean? I couldn't answer. My throat closed up, my heart pounding so loud I thought it might burst. I looked at James, slumped against the wall, his shirt soaked in blood. His eyes narrowed at the message, his jaw tightening. They're bluffing, he rasped, clutching his shoulder. They're just trying to scare you. But the officer who had handed me the phone shook his head grimly. No. They planned this too carefully. If this message is real, someone from your family may still be in danger. My knees weakened. My mind raced through names. Who could they mean? Sarah stepped closer, her face pale. Margaret, where's Emily? My breath hitched. Emily. My granddaughter's mother, my daughter-in-law. She had gone to run errands hours ago. She was supposed to be home by now. God, no. I whispered, my hand flying to my mouth. James's eyes widened, the color draining from his face. Mom, you don't think. The officer pulled out a radio, barking orders. We need a bolo on a missing female mid-30s brunette, last seen in this neighborhood. Possible abduction connected to Ethan's crew. Lily clung tighter to me, her little body trembling. Mommy, where's Mommy? Tears blurred my vision. I hugged her close, kissing her hair, whispering, She's okay, baby. We're going to find her. But inside I was falling apart. Sarah shook her head violently. No, they can't have her. Ethan didn't say anything about Emily. Her panic only made me angrier. You knew enough, Sarah. You brought this into my home. My voice broke, raw and bitter. Because of you, my family is being torn apart. She crumpled, sobbing into her hands. I was stupid, I was greedy. I didn't know it would go this far. The officer grabbed my phone. We need to trace this number. They'll contact you again. But before he could say more, the phone buzzed again. Another message. If you want her alive, you'll bring the money. No police. No tricks. Midnight. Dokhoton. My breath caught. Dokhoton. The old shipping yard on the edge of town. The one that had been abandoned for years. James tried to stand, wincing in pain. Mom, you can't go. It's a setup. They'll kill you. But my mind was already made up. My daughter-in-law's life was hanging in the balance. My granddaughter's future was hanging in the balance. I have to, I said quietly, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. I can't let them kill her. I won't let them. The officer grabbed my arm. Mrs. Margaret, listen to me. If you go alone, you won't come back. They're professionals. Let us handle this. But my heart told me otherwise. The thought of Emily begging for her life, of Lily losing her mother, was more than I could bear. I'll do whatever it takes, I whispered. The officer started to argue, but just then the house phone rang. The old landline in the hallway. We all froze. The shrill ring echoed through the wrecked living room, cutting deeper than the sound of any gunshot. Slowly, I stood, my legs shaking, and walked toward it. I lifted the receiver to my ear. A deep, distorted voice hissed through the line. Grandma, if you want to see her alive, you'll come alone. Midnight. Dock 17. And bring cash. If we see cops, she dies screaming. The line went dead. My heart stopped. Midnight came faster than I wanted. The abandoned docks loomed in the distance, their rusty cranes frozen in the air like giants guarding secrets. The water was black, the night air heavy with mist. My heart pounded so hard it felt like each beat echoed across the empty harbor. I had stuffed the little cash I had into an old leather bag. It wasn't much, but it was all I could manage on such short notice. I knew they wouldn't be satisfied, but this wasn't about money. It was about family. As I stepped onto the cracked pavement of Dock 17, my hands shook. The bag felt heavy in my grip, but not as heavy as the fear crushing my chest. Emily. I called out softly, my voice echoing against the empty warehouses. I'm here. Please, let her go. A shadow moved near one of the rusted shipping containers. Then another. Two men stepped forward, their faces half hidden by masks. One of them grabbed Emily and shoved her into the light. My heart broke. Her wrists were tied, her face streaked with tears, her clothes torn. She stumbled as they pushed her, but when she saw me, her eyes widened. "Mom! Don't do this!" she cried, her voice raw with fear. I clutched the bag tighter, my knees weak. "I brought the money. Just let her go." The taller man stepped closer, snatching the bag from my hand. He opened it, looked inside, then spat on the ground. "This is nothing. Do you think we're fools?" My breath shook. "It's all I have. Please, she has a little girl. Don't take her mother away." The shorter man laughed coldly. "You think we care about that kid?" Rage exploded inside me. "You should. Because someday you'll answer for what you're doing tonight. If not to the law, then to God himself." They sneered, unmoved. The taller one grabbed Emily by the hair. She cried out, and I lunged forward instinctively. "Stop!" A gun was shoved into my chest. I froze. The barrel pressed hard against me, cold and merciless. "Maybe we'll just take both of you," the shorter man hissed. For a moment, terror swallowed me whole. But then, I remembered Lily's face, her voice trembling as she asked about her mother. I remembered James, bleeding and broken but still fighting for us. I couldn't let this end here. With shaking hands, I whispered a prayer. Then, as the shorter man's grip shifted for just a second, I slammed my elbow into his arm. The gun tilted upward, the shot blasting into the night sky. "Run, Emily!" I screamed. She stumbled away as the taller man lunged for me. His hand clamped down on my arm, twisting it. Pain shot through me, but I fought back with every ounce of strength left in my old bones. "Let her go!" I roared, clawing, kicking, refusing to give up. Suddenly, floodlights blazed across the dock. "Police! Drop your weapons!" Sirens wailed, voices thundered. Officers stormed in from every direction. The men cursed, trying to drag Emily back, but this time, they were surrounded. One officer fired a warning shot. The taller man shoved Emily forward and bolted toward the water. He didn't make it far. Two officers tackled him hard onto the concrete. The shorter one dropped his gun, his hands shooting up as they cuffed him. Emily collapsed into my arms, sobbing. "Mom, you came for me, you saved me." I held her tight, my tears soaking her hair. "I would walk through fire for you. For all of you." Behind us, the police dragged the men away, their curses lost in the roar of the sirens. For the first time in what felt like forever, the nightmare was over. James was taken to the hospital, and by God's mercy, his wound wasn't fatal. Emily held Lily for hours that night, never letting go. And me, I sat quietly in the corner, watching them, thanking heaven we were still together. But the scars would remain. The betrayal, the fear, the faces of those men. It would never fully leave me. And yet, one truth burned brighter than all the pain. Never, ever trust strangers just because they seem kind. Wolves wear sheep's clothing, and greed can blind even the best of us. But family, the people you love, are worth every sacrifice, every fight, every prayer. So if you're listening to my story, I beg you, protect your loved ones, and guard your trust carefully. This was Margaret, 68 years old, speaking from Texas. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and click the notifications button so you don't miss my next story. And tell me, from which part of the country are you watching from?